It's a fact of life, but it makes life sweet. Because if everything is permanent, why would you care? But it's not, because I have this one opportunity. I look at it as one opportunity to live my life to the fullest. I'm sure not going to get all depressed and hide within myself and be bummed out and not be awake.
Pat, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So you are an artist, you're a very curious person, which is something I admire about you. For listeners that might not be familiar, anything you would like them to know about you before we dive into the conversation?
I just am. I'm a unique person like each of us. So there's not much to say. My life experiences, have affected me and probably shaped what I think. But when it comes down to it, we're all just very unique individuals. So I'm just unique. I'm myself. And it's nice being older because I don't care as much about what people think anymore. So.
When did you stop caring what people think? Because it's something I'm starting to care less about, but I cared for quite a while.
It was a gradual process. So when you're a teenager, you really care about your peers, and you get in your 20s and you care that you want a spouse or your children and all, and how your family treated you. All that was very important. And then as I went through and I had a 30-year career in a corporation, I learned that, you know what, they don't care. And I am just a body feeling a position. And as long as I'm performing, they're like a little performance monkey. They're happy with it. But once I stop performing, they don't care. And I realized that I am not the center of anybody's universe, but myself. And that it's important to realize that we only should care about who we are, what we do, and is there kindness inside of us? And that's the most important thing. So as I get older, it's easier not to care, because what do I have to prove to the world anymore? Been there, done that, don't care. And so it gets easier with time. And that's my long answer.
Yeah, with not caring, I mean, we tend to care about, in my own experience, it's like I feel like we tend to care about the people, the opinions of people who don't care about us. That's what we start to dwell on, because we feel accepted by people that matter, and we kind of take their acceptance for granted. But we spend a lot of time trying to gain the acceptance of people who don't matter, and that's what's important to start letting go of. Is like, those people don't even matter. Like, I'm not going to see, like, I don't need to see them. I don't need them in my life. I don't need to appease them. So why be different for them? Is that, I mean, would you say that's accurate for you? Like, is it the people who didn't matter that you were worried about pleasing?
Well, even the ones that matter that I care about, and it's just like either they like me for who I am or they don't. I can't control what outside does. Other people do. So I am just going to be okay with who I am. And even if I love them and they don't love me as much or love me back, it doesn't matter, because I'm not going to stop loving them for who they are, even though they are not able to love me for who I am. And it's going to take me to this podcast, because last night I go, I wonder what Artie wants to talk about today. I had no clue. I saw you were looking at my posts, and I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to have no expectations. And when we stop having expectations about this podcast, our lives, or other people, because that's when we suffer, is when we have high expectations. We want people to understand. We want them to read our posts, all that. And those high expectations cause us to suffer. And so I just don't care. Read my post, like me, don't like me. It's okay. I'm just okay with it. And it's just a neutral state of being. It's not like I'm like down. Oh, nobody loves me. I'm upset. But no, it's okay. It is what it is. And that's my favorite saying. You'll hear me say that a lot. It is what it is.
Yeah, I can attest to that. When I first started the podcast, I was really, I had my questions all planned out, and I would just start reading the questions. I'd go in that way. And then eventually I had a guest, and we decided to kind of wing it. And I enjoyed it so much more that's been the way the podcast has been since then. And, I might have a question or two or several questions in my mind that I don't write them down or anything like that. but I have found some of the most fun conversations are the ones that I just, maybe I hadn't a thought of where it might go, but I had no idea in the long run where it ended up. And those have been the most fun. It's like we didn't talk about anything I thought we would, but it was so much fun. We had such a good conversation. I enjoyed it. So yeah, I I really like that. Just being open. Have you always been like that? Like, how did that develop?
Well, because when I was a child, I was constantly being disappointed by these expectations I put on others and myself. So to get rid of the disappointment and the pain of disappointment was I just started letting things go. And it was early on, I realized that I had all these expectations of other people. And I realized I have no control over them. I only have control over how I feel. So I completely got rid of expectations to the extreme because I
Mm,
didn't want to be disappointed. That was the thing. It was a pain point for me. Disappointment.
yeah.
Disappointment in myself, disappointment in others, disappointment I couldn't do something. And so I decided never to want anything anymore. It was that simple. And that's the mind of an 18 and 19-year-old is, no, I don't want anything because I'm just going to be disappointed. So I'm just going to accept whatever comes my way. And that helps me. Actually, it was a good thing. It sounds
Yeah.
bad, but it was a good thing because, disappointment is something we manufacture out of our ego to that we have an expectation that it should turn out this way. Our life should be this or that person should treat me that way. It's all, no, it's not going to happen. And the minute we realize it's our projection on the world has made us disappointed, it's not others disappointing us, it's us allowing that to happen, then it becomes easy. Do I still get excited about things? Sure. Do I get a little disappointed, but not as bad as it doesn't hurt as much as it did when I was younger. It's like, oh, that's too bad. But I can bring myself from a high down to a low, to middle ground pretty easy now. It's like, oh, I hope the podcast goes well. But if it doesn't, it's okay. So I
Yeah.
have that range, but never goes really down because going down doesn't do anything for me. It causes health problems in us when we get real negatives, and that's why
Yeah.
I stay neutral. I like to be upbeat, but normally I'm just neutral because that's a better way. Sure, do I get a little upset when my dinner doesn't come right when I go to a restaurant and I pay a lot of money? Sure, but I bring myself back up to neutral. So it's just that balancing act of going up and down in life.
Yeah. There's a book I need to. Okay, it's called Awareness. I can't remember the author's name, but he kind of dives into that. Uh, and he says a lot of what you were just saying. He says, you know, we have these expectations of other people, and we kind of we'll get angry or upset that the other person doesn't do what we want them to, and we think, oh, the problem is the other person, but the reality is it's us. It's you. You're the problem because you can put someone else in the exact same situation and they wouldn't have a problem with it. So it's us, and we need to recognize that awareness of recognizing that. So I really like that, and I mean, it resonates with like a lot of personal development and a lot of philosophical, spiritual content, which makes me curious. Is there a spiritual underpinning to how you look at the world?
Yes. I've been on a spiritual journey most of my life. As a child, I was very interested in God. I was raised Catholic. I had some crazy things happen to me as a child. Things where, I was a baby and I was put in a sand a pile, outside, and I lived in Southern California, and I was just having so much fun. And then, I wasn't aware of time or space, and my mother came out, and now I was not old enough to know what she was saying, but yet I was aware of everything she felt
Hmm.
and was and I never left me. So here I'm 1.5, maybe one. And I was aware of her worry that, oh my God, she forgot I guess the phone had rang. Her mother had called. She forgot all about her fifth child out into playing in the backyard as a toddler that couldn't move. And I was perfectly content, the awareness. I
Hmm.
had another experience where I was laying in the grass, and all of a sudden I was in the universe. I was up there. I wasn't asleep, but it was just like, left. I can't say I left my body because I don't know what happened, but I was just aware of the entire universe until my brother said, Patty Ann, don't move. And I'm going, so I open my eyes, I look at him, and he had this hatchet and everything. And I'm looking, he goes, there's a tarantula crawling right next to you. Don't move. I'll get it for you. Then roll to the right. Okay. And I did. But it was, though, as a child, I didn't talk much. I didn't really even talk till I was about 5. So
Hmm.
I was just always aware of this. So, being raised Catholic, I had a neighbor and she was a Lutheran. So we would play like I was, we would talk about our different churches we go to and what communion and Jesus. But then, when I was, I was 3, my first sister died. She was a year and a half younger than me, and she died of, pneumonia. And
Hmm.
then my brother and the twin, Kimmy, died. She died that night. They brought her home. They were premature and they were twins. And so I had 2 deaths. So I was always talking to God. So it was really okay, there's got to be more out there then. And then when I was 16, just started the first year of high school, my dad called my sister, and he had took my brother up there in Northern California to go fishing, and he drowned. He was 21.
Oh, wow.
At that point, we had all the priests in and came in, and I was really upset. I'm stunned watching. And the priest comes over and he goes, "Oh, my child, it's okay. God takes the good for young." And I said, "F God." And I walked out of the house. And at that point, I stopped believing in God. I forced myself to stop believing in God until my oldest asked me, "Mom, what happens when you die?" And so I had to dust my Bible off. And so I went
Hmm.
through the Christianity period. And then it just wasn't, it didn't add up to who I believe that the creator of the universe was. So then I went into meditation, into Buddhism, and it's like, that's great. Those are great stepping stones. And that's about 15 years of my life going into that. Gave me a lot of peace with meditation. And just recently, I came into non-duality. It is just, we are the awareness. We inhabit a body that has an ego that likes to project itself into experiences. But it's hard because if I say the ego is a dream and the body is a dream, that doesn't really make sense. But it's a non-reality because the reality is I am. We are being, we are awareness. We inhabit a body. You can call it divine, you can label whatever, but we just are. It's just being. And so that has really released me from anything because we're being. And yes, that ego part of me is trying to keep me surviving. That ego part of me is getting me on the treadmill after this to keep moving. But it's all, it's okay. But we identify, like if I say I'm a mom, it's now an identity. No, I'm not. I'm just me.
Hmm.
I'm an artist. No, I'm just me. I like to paint. It's
Yeah.
all those things because I think when we project identities on ourselves, we lock ourselves into a prison and we lose all our potential to be whatever we desire to be for the moment. And I believe that we are awareness. We are the one that's watching the world through
Yeah.
the eyes of our body and listening to our thoughts and laughing at our thoughts. So a lot of times I just laugh because my thoughts are silly
Yeah.
and what I project on myself is even crazier than that. And so it's just that calm, the happiness that is inside, happiness and peace. And that is the nature of being. And
Yeah.
I believe it's divine. I believe that we are all part of creation and that the divine in us, the being in us, never began and never will end. Where this body, because I do believe in reincarnation, when we incarnated in this body, there is a purpose for me being here. But if I'm so clouded, where am I shining my light? Because if I hide under the identity of all these different hats of these things I did, boss, mother, sister, all those things, I'm hiding the light that's in us. And I think we should just let the light be. So
Yeah.
now I'm retired. I've been retired for about 2 years now. So it's like, I could just be. I don't have to be an identity. I don't have to worry about things. I could just shine my light. So I came to X with that thought, because you and everybody else on X of your generation are the future of this world, not me. I'll be out of here maybe 10, 15 years, but I want to shine my light on each of you, because you are the future. So you guys just put a smile on my face, all of you. And that's why I hang out with a bunch of young people, because what else can I do? I can give you wisdom of experience, all that, but you have to find your own experience. You have to grow your own wisdom through life's challenges. So I can't make it easy for you, but I can empower you with my
Yeah.
energy, and just send my energy and say, yeah, you got this, because you are. Pretty simple.
Can you explain non-duality a little bit? Because I'm more familiar with duality, and my understanding, I've looked into non-duality a little bit, but my understanding is that they're not in conflict, even though the two words sound like they would be. They're not.
They're not. So our egos tries to separate ourselves from the I am inside. So the ego is always saying, no, the ego is always searching and looking for God, but it's within you. So it's the realization that the body, we inhabit a body. We are the energy inside of our bodies. The I am, the being, the awareness is the energy. And in that body, it has an ego that is helping the body survive. But when we are born, we inject ourselves into this body, this physical body, and we are really one. We're not two. We're just one with different things. It's like me saying my hand's not part of me. Well, obviously it is, because unless I cut it off, my hand's here. So it's to bring it together. So inside you, the one who's aware, the voice, the one that is aware of your thoughts, who is that? It's you. It's your awareness. You are awareness. And in that awareness, you have physical eyes, ears, nose to smell, mouth to taste, hands to touch, and we're all one. But the body dies, and we just continue on to the next. So that's the eternal part of us. It's not reaching up to a God in the sky. God is in everything. God is in this room. God is all through every atom, every photon. His essence is all in us, and our essence is that inside. So we are that, but I'm not this.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. You've never read this book, have you? Awareness by Anthony DeMello?
No, I have not read that book.
Okay, because it feels like I'm speaking to the author sometimes when speaking to you. It's
No, I have
really
not. I do follow Paul Hederman on YouTube, who is our mutual friend. Writer's therapy. He calls him his guru. So he turned me on to him, and he made a lot of sense. And he's my age, so I even relate more to him. It's like, I get you, So he doesn't, and that person never shares his name. And it's like, no, this guy's great, but he's also my generation. So it's like, I get where he's coming from. And his name is Paul Civi. I just picked up his book, and The Happiness Inside of You. I believe that's the name. I'm not going to remember. I'll have to look at my phone, but I could tell you. So that is, it's bringing it together. He calls it awareness, and Paul calls it just being. So I kind of incorporate those two, because it's hard to explain what non-duality is. So it's basically, the way I look at it is like, in this room is housing many parts of my room. You got a clock there, my couch behind me, all that. But this room, everything that's you cannot see that is enclosed in this room, is who we are. We're just awareness. Yeah. We're just being. But yet we have many parts, but our mind can be our friend, and it can be our enemy. So I believe that we come here, God can't experience his own creation like we can. So we're here experiencing his creation by being aware and non-judgmental. And that's what we do. We are God's experience his own creation. Are we part of God? I'm not too sure yet. I'll have to really think on that because I do struggle with that. I want to think God is a separate entity from me,
Hmm.
but yet Jesus said the kingdom of God is within us.
Yeah.
My Father and I are one. So those two scriptures keep coming back up to me, but I don't have the answer, and I don't believe I will until I pass on, and maybe then I'll know. So I don't want
Yeah.
to say because I don't know. I would be lying to you, but I kind of believe that we are one, and we're just a spark of the divine creation of all life. We're just a spark. And it's like saying my hand is not mine. I might be just the atom of God inside this body, one atom of His, a
Yeah.
proton or whatever you want to call it. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't really adhere to any specific religion at this point.
No,
Like it
not
seems like
anymore.
you kind of take what works for you from different religions and kind of leave what doesn't.
Yes, philosophy wise, Buddhism is a philosophy, not a religion. They don't
Yeah.
actually even believe in a supreme being, but I think I lean more to that philosophy. But it is just knowing that I am,
Yeah.
and that's when I finally realized that I just am, that's when the peace and happiness came. Now it's not getting a new car, a new house, or living back on the West Coast and out of the Midwest, which I don't really care for because those are the opinions of my ego. But it's just, I am where I am today. And it's just being present, I guess, so yeah, I don't go to church. I don't mind going to a church because I believe churches are really helpful to the people that are suffering
Yeah.
because if they don't realize they're searching for God, they don't realize that God's already within them. And if they're searching, it will bring them to God, which is there. So, but I believe churches help because when we grow older, we all of a sudden learn to be really mean and ugly and selfish. And so I think we need that moral guidance
Yeah.
because babies don't need it, but we learn through school as a child. I mean, you learned what meanness was, and sometimes you adopted those things, and sometimes you didn't refuse to be that way. But
Yeah.
we were taught morals. But I think that we need hope, and when
Yeah.
things are crazy, especially now in this world, is we need that hope. And I think churches are good for a lot of people. Just I don't I don't buy into it because I think it's very legalistic for me.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that God is going to set, I don't believe in hell. I'll be honest. I don't believe there's a hell. I don't believe there's a heaven. I think we just exist beyond limitations
Hmm.
when we're not in this physical body. And right now we're in limitations in this physical body.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like, well, from what I've learned about Buddhism, because I was raised Catholic as well. I was an atheist for a bit, and then I I started learning about Buddhism. I read some books, and I was like, I really like this. I started meditating, and now I would never call myself an atheist again because I think it's an arrogant position to say there is no God.
Yes.
And even though 20 years ago I would have said that, but um, I love that one of the Buddha's teachings was take what works for you and leave what doesn't. And I
Yes.
found that so refreshing when it came to religions because, as a Catholic, you're taught this is the way, this is what's true, this is what's not. Do this, don't do this. Do this, don't do that. And it's just this strict set of rules and ways of viewing the world. And then you learn about Buddhism, and it's like even the guy who basically, he didn't he wasn't the founder, but he was like the first, right? Um, Even he doesn't say, "Oh, just take what I say and accept it as true." It's like do your own search and accept what's true for you. And I just found that so refreshing, and I've really identified with that since.
Well, what I did like about Catholicism is that they retained the mystery of the universe because it's really beyond our knowledge
Mm,
and the magic of it. So, because miracles, things like that happen. And I do believe in the creator, one creator of all of this. And I believe that we're limited. we have no limits. So, I got that from the Catholic Church,
Yeah.
because even the virgin birth, which sounds like, even I, in my mind, is saying, "No, that's crazy talk." But you know what? It is possible, because when we stop thinking nothing is possible and everything is possible, our life changes. I've reinvented myself so many times, from being totally broke with nothing to, having a great career and being very comfortable in my life, because I don't think there's any limits to what we can do, because we are part of the divine plan and the divine spark, divine creator, because he is, I use the word he, but God is us, and we are him. We're the same, and we have that within us. So, but right now we just have this physical body. Can I walk on water? I don't know. I don't think my belief in my own divine self could walk on water, but we do have limitations in this physical world. But we don't have limitations. We can be anything that we desire to be. So I do look at the world is a dream, and I can create the dream of to what I want, or allow it just to be, which is the best way. Because when we allow God to create the dream around us, then it's the best. It's beyond what we could imagine in this little brain up here. So I think that the potential is for everything. So acceptance of what it is, and that's a Buddhist, but yeah.
You said that you've like kind of been reborn or reinvented a few times. How does that look? Because I think a lot of people want that, but it doesn't always. It's not always clear on how to achieve that. Because I think sometimes we want to, like, I want to restart, and then maybe there's a bunch of attachments that we have to our current way of being that we bring into that rebirth or reinvention of ourselves, and bring us back to that old way of being, that old mindset, the old patterns, all that kind of stuff. So how does rebirth or reinvention work for you?
So when I, being raised from, my parents were in the 40s, World War II. My dad was in the Navy. So we were always told, when you leave the house, you take nothing with you.
Hmm.
And so when I left the house, I got my clothes. I didn't even get my 8-track player. It was left for my brother, and it was a Christmas gift. I was pretty mad about that. But so I didn't get anything. So I got a job. I moved in with one of my older sisters. There's 9 of us. There was 9 of us. So I came from a big Irish Catholic family. So, I had nothing, sometimes, and, I made my way in the world. So I started out with nothing. Possessions meant nothing to me. And I just wrote about this too, that at the time it wasn't my husband, but my first husband and I were so poor. All we could do on the weekends was we put some gas in El Camino and drive out the Mojave Desert and watch the sunrise in the Mojave Desert, and not even get breakfast, because it was just enough to go out and buy some smokes. We both smoked at the time, but I was the richest during those times because I had nothing. So then we moved to the state of Washington. The babies came, and then we were working to make a life for them. But then the marriage didn't work out, so I walked away again with nothing. The house, gave it to him, walked away with nothing. I had the youngest son with me, and I started all over again. No possessions. Everything was left behind. And my ex-husband still lives in that house, which is funny because he's much older than I, but he held on to all of his possessions. He never grew from
Hmm.
who he was. And he had a traumatic Vietnam. He was in Vietnam, and I lived with him through the whole time where, noises would startle him. He would think gunfire. I mean, he was in the Army. He was a paratrooper, and there was no hero's welcome for Vietnam veterans, and there was no medicine for the trauma. He held his best friend's brain in his hand, trying to hold it together. They were shot when they were on point in the jungle. So those things, those traumatic things, he had no coping skills. People weren't teaching him mindful meditation. Mental health was just put on, either you go on the street. So those things really changed, but he has not, he got over that, but he's not evolved in his life, which is sad. So I went into a second marriage, and the second marriage was great. I got the career, I was doing well. And then I get this text saying, oh dear, I miss you. And I'm looking, that's not me saying that. And you know what? I was happy. My youngest had just moved out and was on his own. And I was happy because I was free again. And it wasn't working out for me. And it's like, so I walked away with nothing. The house went into bankruptcy. Him and his girlfriend moved into the house, and I was fine with that. I had a job, though, and that was good. And yes, of course, a year of mourning the death of a marriage. It was a 20-year marriage. Sure, I was sad, but I was okay with that. And it was just like starting all over again. And at that point, that's when I became involved learning about Buddhism and meditation. So that helped me through that crisis in my life. And it just became, and now I'm here today, a third marriage, very happy. We moved to the Midwest to take care of his aging parents. My parents died. Gosh, my mom died in 91 and my dad died in 2002. So, I haven't had parents in a long time. And so I thought this is the time to, give back to his parents. And we lost his dad immediately. And then his mom's here and she's a wonderful woman. So it's, those are starting over. It's getting rid of everything, the things that hold you back, and possessions and even people. And when I moved here, I got rid of all my old furniture, everything that was from the past. And I just said, no more. We're starting a new life, just starting over. So that is a physical, what I'm talking about, physically moving on. And now I own my house. I have no house payment. I did well in my career. I was not a high school graduate, never stopped me from going up the corporate ladder and using what my innate talents were to build a comfortable life for myself.
Yeah.
So I was never held back by any limitations because my mind just I did not allow my mind, or my mind was not allowed to be, held back because, I'm responsible for everything bad I did, everything good I do. I am responsible. So I never put blame on others. So if things aren't working, I go within.
With your second marriage, if I'm understanding correctly, you got a text message saying I miss you. So there was another woman? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm pretty sure that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I was happy because the marriage was over in my mind. He had said one thing to me, which is kind of funny. He says, when we retire, we're going to get a travel trailer and just stay in those parks. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. But what was wrong with the marriage is that we didn't see ourselves growing old with each other. We had different things. And I always tell everybody before you get married, can you grow old with this person? What does your future look like when the kids are gone and everything is? Can you grow old with that person? Because that is more important than anything else that you'll ever do. You got to see that. And I found someone that I can grow old with. And we like to do the things, same thing. He's very creative. He doesn't paint, but he does the miniature railroads. And so his hobbies, and our house is full. Behind me is my art studio. Downstairs, he has his train room, another train room, and then upstairs there's a little train room. And he does the little miniature figures from like D&D. So he's always painting those. So, and then we both I'm a gamer. I game. I love playing games online on my computer. I don't do the Xbox or the Nintendos anymore. I don't know why. It just kind of makes me nauseous. But, like right now I'm playing Icarus off of Steam. I love that game. Space Engineers. I know. Awesome. I'm 70 years old, but I love the game. Always have been gaming. I couldn't wait for the new Zeldas to come back when my oldest was a young, because it's just, I love the game. So that's my relaxation. And I'm learning to write, thanks to our friend on X. I'm learning to write. stories, and he's teaching me, and he'll text me and say, okay, your hooks really suck, so do this next time or do that. Because English was something in school I did not like, did not understand. I didn't care how to form a sentence. And, language was just a struggle for me for some reason. And so I was an avid reader, still am. I could comprehend anything I could read, but I can't relate it back, and I couldn't write it down. So
Yeah.
he's been helping. So if I can learn to write post on X at 70, there's hope for everybody then. I'm constantly evolving. That's my newest evolving.
Yeah. Well, Nick is the one coaching on
Yes.
that, right? So how
Yeah.
important is it to have that relationship with someone coaching you, to give them the freedom to like really give it to me, really criticize me? Because if you
Well, he
don't,
starts out really nice. And
yeah,
I
yeah,
asked him, I said, Nick, go business on me. Please. I was a boss for 30 years. Please go business on me, because I'm going to respond to that, because I don't do well with passive aggressive trying to teach me. I want you to tell me, no, this is, but I want you to tell me it sucks, but I want you to tell me why, and then teach me how I can fix it. So you've got three things when you teach. I could say, oh, okay, there's no hook. Well, okay. And then he would go, there's no hook. You need an emotional thing to grab their attention so they read the rest. You only have 3 lines of text on an expose to grab that. So do something that gets their attention. It has to be emotional. So he's teaching me that. I still struggle with putting a great ending on it. I read about it, but I tell Nick, and he is, how nice he is. But when we talk about writing, it's like, don't hold back, please. Because if you say, oh, that's really nice, all you're doing is hindering me. So unless you're honest with me, I will never grow. So he's been a great teacher. So he doesn't call me out in public, but
yeah,
even if he
yeah.
did, it'd be fine. But he did the other night on one of his spaces. He took one of my posts and he tore it apart line by line. It was wonderful. I was so happy, because not only did he tear it apart, he showed me what I could have done better. And
Yeah,
I think that's perfect.
yeah, I love it. Yeah, I think you have to. I think for any good relationship, I mean, even in a romantic relationship, if you love each other, you want to grow. So you have to be open to that criticism, and be willing to give it where it matters. And obviously that can go too far where you're being too critical and never,
Sure.
giving any compliments. But I think that criticism can come off as mean in general, but it can come from a place of love, and we don't always appreciate that in the moment when we're feeling, our ego is hurt because of the things that I thought it was so good, and now I'm being told
Yeah.
it wasn't. It can be a little hard.
No, but my husband has a really good eye for perspective, and I'm doing one now. Is kind of like a post-war city that is decimated, and yet I'm going to have the earth reclaim this. It's kind of off the movie The Silo. I don't know if you've seen it. It's pretty good on at what is Apple TV. So I've been watching this series, and so my son suggested that. He goes, "Mom, you always do landscapes. Why don't you do buildings?" I'm not good at buildings, but my husband is very good, and he'll tell me when things are off perspective, and it's just so helpful. Oh, okay, yeah, you're right, because so I'm doing this because I'm not good at buildings, and I need to not be afraid to do something that is a little different from what I normally did. So yeah, it's kind of, yeah, it's bizarre, but
You've okay, you've had these like starts where you had nothing and you had to pick up and move on. What do you uh, and it seems like each time you've built something good again. But what do you attribute that to? Because like when people get in that situation, sometimes it could be like, what's the point? What's the point in trying again? What's the point in moving forward? I just keep ending up I keep ending up with nothing. So why should I even try again? And people can get in that mindset. Like what was different for you, and what can people maybe gain from that?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to think. So I know the first time was is to prove my dad wrong that I can make it on my own because I'm kind of rebellious that way. You tell me I can't do something and I will do it.
Yeah.
The second one is I had a 1 year old, and
Mm,
even though I was moving in with my second husband, he was not the father of my child. I had another child that was older that stayed with his dad, and it was like it was a need to provide for him. That was that. And the third one was it was just I didn't want to be in that relationship that was so toxic. He was a great stepdad. I will give him that every day, but it's there was never a thought in my mind that I couldn't do something. I have a granddaughter like that. She's 12 and she's going to be a race driver. And you can't convince her of anything else but a race driver. And she's going to be a seamstress because my first job was a seamstress. So she can sew. She is such a good artist at 12. I think that if I could have done what she did at 12, where would I be today? So
yeah.
I think that we lose our childlike can do attitude and the world beats it out of us.
Yeah.
And mental illness is big in my family. I lost who my mom was when I was 13. She was in and out of mental hospitals the rest of her life, psychotic. It was in started drinking to self-medicate. So this wonderful woman who was a great artist who laughed and beautiful was gone through mental illness. So mental illness was always around me. And most of my family suffer from anxiety and depression. And I just refuse. I don't know. I just always had that hope. And I don't know why, but that hope was always bubbling up inside. Maybe it was my beginning of seeing the world through a child's eyes of the possibilities. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you have to train yourself, maybe. I guess if you're down, I always tell someone if they're really down, is like, okay, you're down, but you're not gone. So start creating again. And I guess just create. That's a long answer. Wasn't very good, was it?
So, did you ever fall into the habit of comparing yourself to others? Because sometimes people can be, I mean, if you're 30 or 40, whatever, starting over again, it can be tempting to look at other people and be like, I am so far behind, there's no way I'm going to catch up.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's a natural. You see somebody and you want to be like them, but but at the same time, I always find when I look at someone and they're successful, I look inside them. Are they really happy? Because I sense things about people, and I don't want to say it's a psychic ability, but I kind of know. So I'll feel a sadness from them, or I'll feel this, and it's like, yeah, I want to fix them. And that's bad. It's bad because I'm always wanting to fix somebody. And so when I see someone, even I look at people on stage or, they're, yeah, I mean, even the worst candidate in the world, and I'm not going to name any worst candidates, but the worst candidate in the world, I have compassion for them because I see that they're just a flawed human and they struggle just as I do. So they don't really have anything that I really want.
Yeah.
I'm more jealous of a person with a new car, but because my car's getting old. It's a 2011, but it's only got 70,000 miles on, so I get rid of it,
Yeah.
and get a new one. But yeah, I don't know. Yes, we all compare and we all get jealous. In school, I wasn't popular. I had just lost my brother and I was like, I had a disease. People, back in the 70s, I didn't know how to talk to someone who lost a brother. So I just stayed to myself. I was always on the outside looking in. And maybe that's why I haven't really compared to others because I've always been on the outside, watching, aware, and never been in the inside group. That
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, you lost three siblings by the time you were 16.
Yes.
So how does that shape your worldview as you grow older?
Well, at first it made me very angry, and I became an atheist just because if God's going to take my brother, then God doesn't exist. Um, it's the most painful things that I did, and I just recently lost a sister. When I moved here, I lost another brother, and I just lost my brother-in-law, who was the one that comforted me at 10 when my brother died, because my oldest sister got married when I was 10, so he was there, and it's a hard thing to grieve, but you know what? I have loved so many people, and the cost of having love, deep love like I have, is the pain of loss. So I look at it that way, because that's what I learned, because I have had wonderful people in my life, and I've lost so many that I'm a lucky person because I've loved so much. And that is the penalty. That's what you pay to love, is that they're going to, but have I really lost them? That is, it's hard. That's what I think, but in my heart, I still grieve, because I will justify in my mind, well, I'll see them someday if they're not gone, but in my heart, they're not present for me right now. So grief is hard, but it's part of life. And as you get older, I was really afraid of death when I was younger because I was raising kids. And now I'm not. It's just I welcome that rest from living a life. But I just still curious. I love life. I mean, I'm curious about you. I'm curious about people I meet. And that keeps me wanting still to engage and
Yeah.
be present with everybody.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned your own, yeah, we're all going to die eventually. So, like, how do you look at death for when you consider like the inevitability of your own death? And obviously, you're little bit older than me, so it's more likely to
Just a
come soon.
tiny
Not that
bit.
I can die tomorrow in a car accident. Who knows? But
Yeah.
um, you know, how do you look at that? How do you enjoy your life? Well, I have my view. I think accepting the inevitability of death allows you to enjoy life, but
Yes.
I would love to hear your thoughts on it. Like, how do you, prepare for that or stay positive while getting closer to that potentially?
But it's funny because death has been a main theme in my life. I think about death often. I actually did and do. I still
Yeah.
do. Death is, it's something we talked about growing up, and that's an Irish Catholic family. We talk about death. My sons know what they do with this body when I'm gone. Well, I've changed it now because now I want a green burial like my older sister had 2 years ago, because that was really cool burial. So it's a fact of life, but it makes life sweet, because if everything is permanent, you know what? Why would you care? But it's not, because I have this one opportunity. I look at it as one opportunity to live my life to the fullest. I'm sure not going to get all depressed and hide within myself and be bummed out and not be awake, because I need to be awake every moment. And even as a child, I couldn't go to sleep. So that's kind of what my mind does. It's hard for me just, oh, I don't want to miss anything. This is too much fun being in this lifetime. So as I get older, I don't, I'm, I've done most of my to-do lists, I guess. The things I went to Ireland, I got to see that. I mean, there's more things I would like to do, but it's no longer my to-do list. So I've had a wonderful life full of a lot of drama, sadness, pain, misery, health issues, and joys and loves and meeting interesting people all the time in my career. So many people have crossed my path, and I believe my tapestry of life is very colorful, very intricate, and just wonderful. So I don't regret. And when I die, the body's going to stay and I'm going to remain. I don't know the place. I really don't. I want to believe I'll go into heaven, but I don't know. Or maybe it's a different dimension. I
Yeah.
don't know. Or maybe you can't kill energy. I know that. Energy can only be changed. So I know I'll be changed. It's because I am energy. We are all energy. So my body will be changed. The earth will absorb it. And it's kind of what this painting is right now. What I'm doing is, when you're buried, the earth reclaims your body, your bones, and changes and the earth grows from that. So I don't know. I just know that, will I remember this life? I don't know.
Yeah.
I want to think I will, but I'm not 100% on that. But yeah, it's just acceptance of the temporary thing. My car won't last forever. I accept that. My eyes are starting to where I have my glasses each year. I have to change the prescription. Yeah, I'm shrinking. I was 5'3", now I'm 5'2.5". So all those things, everything changes, and that's what life is. And so when I die, that'll be a change. But I don't believe we just go off into the nothingness. I believe that the essence of the awareness inside continues on.
Yeah. I think that a big reason we have so much innovation and so much amazing stuff in the world is because of death. Like, if we lived forever, we would sit around doing nothing because we wouldn't have any impetus to like do anything. Like there would be
Been there, done
no,
that.
but sorry, what?
Been there, done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I mean, since we're all going to die and we know this, it's like, okay, well, what can I do while I'm here? And that's why, we have buildings that all around our cities, we have buildings that were created by people that might not be here anymore. We have
Yeah.
technologies that exist because of people that aren't here anymore. We have, hundreds of years of innovation, or many more years than that, but so much innovation built on the backs of people who are no longer here. And I think if death weren't a reality, none of that would exist because those people wouldn't have been driven to do that. They would have just put it
Right.
off. So,
I'm
yeah.
always excited for tomorrow. I can't wait to see where technology goes, where AI goes.
Yeah.
I'm excited and I'm neutral about it. I don't think it's good nor bad. I
Yeah.
think it just is. And because I am a geek, I love technology. So I've been raised at a time where we had dial up phones and we had party lines and we had to call the operator to know what time it was exactly. So I lived through that era, and now it's like our smartphones, everything is right there. I had a really great talk with Chat GPT the other day on the existence of life and, going back and forth with it. And it's just like I got a deep conversation from a computer. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Walt Disney, when Disneyland, because when I was born, Disneyland, 3 months later, Disneyland was. And so they had Tomorrowland, and I loved Tomorrowland because they had video phones. And I can remember talking with my next door neighbor and saying, can you imagine we could talk to each other on a video call? It just seems impossible. I was there for the moon landing. So, and now it's going so fast, I can barely keep up. My 12-year-old granddaughter does better on things like they want to know my password to my Wi-Fi. She goes, oh, Grandma, just bring me your phone, and it's right there. They had to teach me that I could just give phone and they got the Wi-Fi. So I'm slowing down, but I'm keeping up with technology. And that's what I want to do when I go. I've told my kids, if my mind's ever gone and you have to put me in one of those horrible, horrible places, why don't you just take me to the beach and let me go for a swim? Because at the minute I stop engaging, I don't want to be here. And that's why I keep learning, because the only thing as an older person to keep we need to create new neural pathways in our brain, and that's by learning, constantly reading, constantly challenging ourselves. If I just sat there and crocheted and did nothing else, I would not have talked to you. I would have said no to this opportunity to meet you. And this is what I took this podcast is, okay, I've seen Artie around, but who is Artie? So my curiosity brought me to this podcast. Just who are you? And because I don't know who you are, and I wanted to meet you.
Yeah.
So that's, if you do one thing when you get old, keep learning.
Yeah. With technology, was that always a thing for you? Like, were you always interested in technology, or was there a time where you were way behind that you had to get caught up?
No, yeah, school, we had a computer class, but what it was these punch cards, and we had to learn, you punch the holes in it for computers.
Yeah.
And when the first computer came out, It was DOS, and I learned DOS programming because you had to use a computer. You had to use programming language, which was called DOS back in the day. So I've had computers ever since, the first computer. I didn't get into Apple till much later in my life. And I refused to because my oldest son was like, oh, Apple's the way to go. And I was like, oh, no, I'm going to stay with IBM. And, so I've always had. And so my job, when I first started as an office manager, I can't even think of, it was a S400 system, the programming. Well, it didn't do much. So I learned to program things to make my job do not have to do such manual data entry. And then we came online and they kind of refused, oh, let's not be corporate. The branch I work in, they didn't want us all to be connected. And it's like, this is the only way to do this. And then I was the one that would build queries to pull data out of the S400 for our database.
Yeah.
And so I just kept learning. And then now it's like technology is gone past me, but I still can use it.
Yeah.
I don't understand that the programming behind it. I've taken a little bit on it. I know how to program AI a little bit to give me, if I ask AI something, I don't want pat answers. I want them to, no, I don't like this. I'm going to give them an article and say, break this apart and tell me what sucks in it. And AI will do that for you instead of, oh, this is really nice. I'm not a child. I don't need to be patted on my head.
Yeah.
Teach me what is better. So yes, I would like to take a programming class, but I'm this year is focused on my art year.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put the learning some program. But now AI can teach me how to program, so I could do that without even having to take it. Well, question: do you think there's going to be universities anymore when AI can teach us everything? Where's the teachers and going to go?
Yeah, I think I think University of California is actually kind of adopting like an AI centered approach to learning. I think it's University of California. Cyrus, I think, posted about this. And yeah, I think I wish I had AI 20 years ago because what it can do, it's just okay, I have ADHD. So I'm very much, or I would assume I have ADHD. I'm very scatterbrained. I'm creative, but it's also kind of hard for me to like put a plan together and go through with it because it's like I'm onto something for a second and then 5 minutes later I'm on to another idea. And I mean, you can see this in my everyday life. I'll start writing an email. It'll take me 8 hours to finish the email because I'll get distracted before writing 4 sentences sometimes. And I think it's just amazing. It has its limits, of course. Like I've definitely run into a bunch of limits with AI, and most of that is because of the token limit. So like with programming, for instance, I'm not a programmer, but I've tried to get it to like program some like apps and stuff like that. And where I run into a problem is it can do 300 lines of code, maybe 400, maybe 500. But after that, it can't keep it together to understand the full picture of the program anymore.
Okay, makes sense.
And it's the same with like any kind of information that you give it. Like after a certain amount, it's too much.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the ability to, so I'm sure you've looked up forums. That was the way to get information on anything with technology for the last 30 or 40 years.
Oh yeah.
It's you go into a forum, you find somebody who's having a similar problem, and hopefully they've explained it in a way that it relates to your problem well enough that what they've found works for you and you can adopt that. Now you can just go into ChatGPT or Grok or whatever it might be and just say, this is the problem I'm having. And it can explain to you exactly what you need for your specific situation. And it's not always going to be perfect, but it's amazing that you can get that kind of interaction with a program.
It is because my iPhone sometimes freezes and I always forget what I have to do. So I just go to Google and I just put in my iPhone is frozen, and you chat GPT pops up and tells me exactly, oh yeah, I remember how to do that, and I do it. So it's nice. But you used to be forums. You had to go to an iPhone forum, or or even when I was learning queries, I would just look for white pages on querying for the AS400 and the program, and there would be a lot of research, which I
Yeah.
enjoyed, but it's so much faster. And when quantum computing comes, and how quick will that be, and the
Yeah.
capabilities that is in the future, it's very interesting. But with all that, as a human, as a being, we still crave connection with other like beings.
Yeah.
And that's why you and I are talking type, because the I am, and I am you are connecting at a deeper level than just physical. We're in
Yeah.
two different parts. I don't know where you are, and you don't really know where I am, but we are connecting because we are connected. And I believe in the interconnectedness of the humankind, are the being part of us, the divine being part of us. So because of that, computers are great, but will we ever connect? No, because it would be just like me loving my car more than my husband. Well, yeah, a lot of people do, but it's we crave things outside of us, whether it's a home or a physical thing, but yet what we need is always a human connection. Our body just needs nutrition, but our mind wants to connect with physical things. But inside our hearts, we have to connect. So I love technology, and that's why I'm not afraid of it. And I know the earth, we will not blow up the earth, because the earth was here billions and billions of years, and it's only gone around the Milky Way. The sun, our sun has only gone around the Milky Way, I think it was 17 times, no, maybe
Hmm.
11 times
Really?
complete orbit around the Milky Way, the sun. And it's like, okay, we're just a fraction of time that this sun has circled the Milky Way. So where are we going to go? you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. With AI, one of the areas that does worry me a little bit, I can see some benefit to it, is kind of what you're saying, where they're trying to implement it in ways that basically supplement relationships or replace them. Like making an AI girlfriend, or making eventually robots that basically act as a spouse, and or just chatbots that like keep you company and stuff like that. I think it's cool because, like, I mean, I think it's nice in the sense that, like, yeah, if you don't have somebody to talk to, like, a computer is better than nobody. But it does worry me that people are going to start leaning toward that, and then not seeking those human connections that matter to us.
but okay, so you get a new car, and you got the new car. Have you bought a new car before?
Yeah, yeah.
How long did your excitement last with that new car?
Oh, maybe a few months.
Okay, so you get a bot. I have a vacuum, a robot vacuum, right? I've had it for several years. I call him Harold. I always call things Harold. I don't know why. But, at first I was so excited, and I just loved Harold, and I was talking to Harold, and now it's just a vacuum that picks up my dog's hair. So I think that we all disconnect because everything outside of us gives us temporary happiness, joy, peace, excitement. So when it's outside of it, it will end because it started, and it has everything that starts has an ending. So a robot will start, oh, this is really great, but until it's not great. So I don't worry about it because I think that at the end, you're just going to, it's not doing it for me because you're going to keep searching because we we're born into this veil of not knowing, with forgetfulness, and they were always searching to know again. And that knowing is the being inside of us, the awareness inside of us. So we're searching for ourselves outside of ourselves, which is crazy talk in a sense. But so we always will search for that connection, that human connection, or the connection with the divine. So and the divine, you can't get the divine in an object.
Can't. I mean, we can do that with people too, can't we? Where it's like the excitement of that connection, or a new partner, or whatever it might be, might excite somebody for a few months, and then you start to take them for granted. Like, oh,
Yeah.
they're just a person that's there. And I mean, I've seen it in different relationships where it's like you, you I mean, that's why love is an action, right? Like love takes work. It takes constant work to maintain that love. Like it's, the idolized fantasy of love is that you fall in love and then you just remain in love because it's there. But the reality is that this is what the Disney movies don't teach us, is that love is an action that we have to maintain. It's a it's something that we just have to maintain in our relationships. Otherwise, it just disappears. So I feel
There's
like,
two parties.
yeah. So
So
I
you
feel like,
can't control. Go
uh,
ahead.
I just feel like humans can do that too. We can take it for granted that
Yeah,
that excitement
we
wears off.
can't because we're two parties. You're in a relationship. One party might say, "I see something more. I see this shiny little woman over there, and I want that." Or this habit of hers or his drives me crazy because and they split apart. Now before there was a lot of shiny objects in olden times, my parents' time. You got married, you stayed in the same area, you only knew you either marrying your cousin or you could marry somebody new. So there wasn't many options. So because the options were taken away, the love was able to really evolve. And when you get older in relationships, it's the best time because it's not about having children. It's not about the physicalness of your relationship. It's the deep abiding love that you care that that person's there for you. You're going to protect and take care of them. You're going to be there in times when just sitting next to them when things are hard. So you've gone past all the young. It's hard when you're young to stay in the same, but it's easier as you get older. And if you can stay in the same marriage and stay with them until you're old enough where it's like, I couldn't imagine not having a life without this person in my life, then it lasts. And that's where my sister was after 50, 60 years of, not quite 60 years of marriage. Her husband passes away and she's lost. She goes, I just never could imagine not having him. I was talking, today's her birthday. Happy birthday, sister. Colleen, I could say her first name. But she's lost because she's lost that one person and they would fight. I'd go over their house and, they'd be fighting and I'd be rolling my eyes. It's like, stop it, you guys. But you know what? They got through every fight, at the end of the day, the last 5 years has been so sweet for them because both of them had physical ailments. And every time there was a danger, they knew they couldn't live without each other. And now she's had to start all over again, but he is always in her mind. I saw her on camera because we do the video calls, and there was my brother-in-law. And of course, I'm choking up because I see him holding his little dog. But it's her life, her reality, and that's special. And I wish I could have got there with one person at 18 years old like my sister did, but I didn't. So now, I don't know why. I guess it's a flaw, but I just couldn't do it. But I know it can be done.
Yeah, I don't think it's a flaw. I think it's just, we have different opportunities come at us, and we can't always. Some people have that opportunity for that life partner at 18, and some people don't see that until they're 40, 50.
Yeah,
Some people
50,
never do.
60, 60.
Yeah.
I mean, it just continues, and life is an adventure. It really is, and there's nothing that lasts. And I haven't lived in the same place for very long either, so I don't know if this was my plan in the beginning to travel. I've probably lived in 15 different houses or more. I don't stay in a place too long. Right now, I am really jonesing to go back out west, somewhere in Washington or the coast, or even Arizona. I would settle for that because it's going to be snowing here for a couple of days, and I hate the snow, I hate the cold. But you know what? Because I'm jonesing for it, I'm in the way of the universe providing where I need to be. So I just have to stop craving it
So if you
and
if
just
you
be.
want something, you try to calm that down a bit.
Okay, absolutely, because I'm in the way of the universe. because when I want something, it might not be the best. And when I let go and accept for what it is and just allow the universe to, there's a book, and I'll have to send you the title later, but all he did was every time the universe brought him an opportunity, he just said yes, even though he wanted to say no. I
Mm.
can't think of that book's name, but it was so good because I read it. And it was like, yeah, we avoid things that are uncomfortable for us. But what if we didn't avoid it and we just allowed the universe to do its thing
Yeah.
and just allowed? I could have said no to you because when I first saw your DM, I thought, why does he want me on his podcast? Because I know who you've interviewed. And I
Yeah.
thought, I'm just going to say yes and see where it goes.
Yeah.
And it's the saying yes to what the universe brings you is
I'm
the
happy you
way.
said yes because yeah, I've actually had it in my mind to interview you for probably about 6 months now. I just don't tell people. I don't tell
Yeah.
people who I want to interview, and I do get asked by different people they're like, "Hey, I want to be on the podcast," but when somebody says that, it's like, I don't know. I don't like it. It has to be a feeling for me. It's like, oh, I want to interview this person. So yeah, I'm happy you did. Yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on we obviously have a very different society now than it's rapidly changing, and I think there's a lot of angst. People are worried about various things happening in the world or how technology is going to change things, or um, they're searching for something. A lot of people are searching for something, and it seems like you've found this peace in you that a lot of people are searching for. And I would love to hear, and you've already gone over it a little bit, but maybe a little bit of what people can do if they're searching for something and they're not sure what.
Is to look within,
Hmm.
get quiet, be present, and look within because the answer is within you.
Yeah.
It's simple.
Yeah, it seems like you've benefited a lot from like meditation, like that mattered a lot to you. And I know a lot of people, and I've been this way at different times in my life. It's like not happy with whatever is going on in life, so I'm going to move to this place that I think is going to make me happy, or I'm going to buy this car that I think is going to make me happy, or buy this house, or date this person that I think is going to make me happy. But it seems like you just said, like if you're not doing the internal work, those things will never really make you happy.
So the tree behind you, I've been looking at. I love the and the tree doesn't move, but it moves with the wind. It grows with the weather. It allows things to just come and go in its existence, yet it stands strong. It provides coverage. It provides air quality. It does all those things, but it just is. It just stands. And I think that when we search is the source of unhappiness by searching. And acceptance, I think, is the best word in the whole universe. It's just accept, just be. It's just we make it too hard for ourselves.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you mentioned the guy who just started saying yes to things, and I find that I was thinking about this because, like, there opportunities present themselves to various people,
Mm-hmm.
but then you'll see one person or a small group of people that take advantage of an opportunity that it's there for all to take an advantage of. And I was thinking about this recently of like, why is it that only some people take advantage of an opportunity that it's right there? It's got to be either maybe it's a belief in the universe and maybe the goodness of the universe to present that opportunity, because if you're jaded, say you get a good investment opportunity or something, it's like, oh, this opportunity is right there. If you're jaded and you have this mindset of like, well, things don't work out in my favor, this is too good to be true, or whatever it might be, And some scams definitely, like, to never go into a
Yeah,
scam
you
or
have to
anything.
know
You
that.
you
Yes.
have to be critically thinking, but a legitimate opportunity that might present itself to you. We've seen many examples of this, like throughout, corporate history, of like somebody passes up on investing in Facebook or whatever it might be. And it's like, what makes it so those people that said yes, why do they say yes? And maybe it is
They
just acceptance.
eliminated the fear.
Yeah.
It's fear that stops us. It's allowing that keeps us allowing, trusting. Okay, fear and trust. Trusting the universe is got our back. Like they say in the military, got our six, got our back.
Yeah.
So it's just fear. Fear stops everything. If I stay with my second husband and out of fear that I wouldn't find anybody else, or I would have to live on one income, all those things could have stopped me. But I trusted, and it was trusting God. I mean, I'm going to say the universe, but it's trusting God that it always has worked out when I just trust.
Yeah.
And but you asked me earlier who I looked at, who I was a little jealous of, and I'm going to say what you do. I'm very jealous because I think interviewing people would be a lot of fun.
Hmm.
So I just so I found something that am jealous about because I think interviewing somebody and getting to know them is just fun. You get
Well, if
to
you ever
have your
want to,
mind.
I have, Gilo, right? We've
Yes, I
talked a
love
little
Gilo.
bit.
Yes,
We've talked a little bit, and he's like, yeah, I want to, we did this podcasters roundtable and stuff like that. And he's like, just, you don't have to share any trade secrets. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, I don't have trade secrets. Like, I mean, there's me. It's like, I don't think anyone can be me. So I guess that could be a trade secret, but it's just me being me. The rest of it is like, I'll tell anybody, like, I'll tell you every piece of equipment that I use, all the technology that I use. I'll tell people how I formulate my emails. I'll tell you anything. So, if you ever want to interview people, I'd be happy to help you get started because it's very rewarding. I love it. It's
Oh,
really,
I bet because it's. I guess the video would be more, my challenge. Because I'm looking at you the whole time because I don't want to look at me because I'm not that same person I was when I was
uh,
18. I have dentures, so that's I can hear them clicking. Because so those things I think the video is more off-putting to me.
hmm,
But again, I did this to get over that fear because I thought to myself, you know what? Who cares? You're a 70-year-old woman. Who is going to look at you like you're some young hot thing? Who cares? Get rid of the ego. That's really stupid. And I laughed at myself because it doesn't matter because you weren't interested in how I looked. You were interested in what I thought. And that's what was like, okay,
yeah.
just be there. But yeah,
I don't, I don't like being on camera. I don't like the sound of my own voice.
me too.
I don't do this for the me aspect of like me being on camera or anything like that because I really don't like it. Um, I I don't I don't even like to listen to the parts where I talk on the podcast too much. I would rather just. I mean, it's why I do an interview podcast. I could never do one of those podcasts where I'm just sitting there talking and saying what I think for an hour.
Yeah.
I would not do well in that. So, and maybe I'll do videos every once in a while where I'm sharing my views, but I love interviewing people because I just love it. It's just so much fun.
I wanted a conversation with Artie today, and that's how I sat down. Is like I'm going to have a conversation with Artie,
Yeah.
and that got through. It's like okay, I'm just going to We're two people on a plane. We're having a random conversation, so we can be transparent and get off the plane and say our goodbyes and be done with it. So I love to travel because I have the wonderful, best conversations on the airplane with a random stranger.
Yeah.
But it would last maybe a 4-hour flight from Seattle to Houston. And it was like, yeah, okay. We're done. We got the plane, we go our separate ways, but yet the conversation remained. I got to hear a chapter out of their life. And it was always wonderful because I would be the one asking the questions because I'm curious, but it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes you find yourself opening up in ways that you wouldn't expect in those conversations, because it's like you don't have that. Sometimes we're afraid to open up to people because we have a bunch of connections to that person. It's like, well, if I tell them this, are they going to tell everyone else I know? And then everyone knows this that I didn't want to share with everybody. Or, you know, I can be really, I don't want to be vulnerable with this person. Sometimes you find yourself sitting on a plane with somebody and you're like, I'm never going to talk to this person again. Like, I have no reservations about sharing something that maybe I don't even share with my close friends lately. So it's pretty remarkable. I love those passing
Yeah.
conversations.
Well, I came to X for that part. I didn't mind using my name and my picture. I had a picture first, and then I made the PFP with a Mid Journey AI, and created from a picture, took a picture of myself and put it into my profile picture. And I could be just Pat. I wasn't Patty. I wasn't mother. I wasn't daughter. I was nothing. I was just me. Then my nephew joined X, and that has changed the dynamic. So I was talking on Writers Therapy about it, and there was Nick and Dave Meir listening, and different people, and it was really wonderful because Dave said to me, he goes, "Oh, you're the problem, not your nephew."
Hmm.
And I go, oh, I am. Because I wanted to be his aunt, or I projected myself whenever he was on a space, I was now his aunt. So I was protective or saying the thing. So I stopped being me because of him. But he wasn't the problem. It was me. And so when I play a role, it's putting a mask on. I'm hiding the real me. Why? I don't know. I mean, it's fear. Am I going to be discovered that I'm really just me?
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's interesting because I do that because the reason for X, I thought it was transparency. I could just be me. I could write what I wanted to do. I could say what I wanted to do. I wasn't going to get fired for what I said. I was going to be judged, and I'm okay with being judged, but I wasn't affecting other people besides myself. I wasn't affecting my kids, my family, because my beliefs are different than my family. Some agree, some do not agree, but I was representing just me. It's like being on in court and just representing yourself without a lawyer, trying to frame everything around positive. So it's interesting. It goes back to our thoughts control us and cause those fears and put our masks on. And it's liberating to be with strangers. You'll probably have to edit all that out because I was just crazy talking.
No, no, I love it. I'm When I started on X and I started the podcast, I had a few friends who I like, they've always been supportive, and I invited them to follow the podcast and stuff like that. But for the most part, I started this as an endeavor that's like separate from the life that I had before it, I guess. And it's for very similar reasons. When I post on X, I still get in my head about, if it's a contentious topic, there are a lot of things that I still get in my head about, but I feel like I can be myself more on X. And where if I go to a social media where I know, where it's like all the people that I've accumulated as friends and acquaintances in my life, it's posting something from my heart where what I really want to say is so difficult. I just can't do it. But then on X, where it's like, I have a lot of friends on X, but they didn't become my friends until I got on X. And I know like one or two people, but it's like I feel more free. Very, very much.
I'm working on that too because like I have another social media that all my family and friends, my nieces and nephews, and anybody I've worked with in the past are on there, and they have a different version of me. They
Yeah.
might have Pat the corporate person, Pat the aunt, Pat the sister, or Patty the sister. So I'm different. I have different roles for all these people on this other. And the only thing I will share occasionally is my art, but I'm not sharing me
Yeah.
because I never did share me. I just played a role, and I think about that a lot lately. Is what am I afraid of just being me? Are they going to reject me? well, they've already rejected me because we don't talk. We've
Yeah.
moved on. So what is the fear? And it's an interesting question that I don't really have the answer, but I know that I'm hesitant when I've played a role with somebody to come out of that role. And I don't know what the fear, underlining fear was, but I hope to get to the point where I don't care. It's just me.
Yeah. I've lost friends when I've spoken my mind a few times, or acquaintances. And I actually find it kind of freeing. I don't want to lose people in my life, but at the same time, it's like I've slowly accepted the fact that, like, if I can't be me around somebody, then that's not somebody I need in my life anyway. But
It's political things is what I don't talk about on that type of social, because I would lose half of my family and friends if I said I voted for this person or that person. Because my friend, politically, I'm a moderate. I see both sides.
yeah,
I probably lean a tiny bit more liberal but I'm not in the middle. I just
yeah,
am. I'm just in the middle. So, and they're my friends' family extremes, right and left.
yeah,
And I allowed them because that's who they are, and I get it and I understand. But I just know from their words and that if I was to say that I voted against what they believe, they'd be gone out of my life. And I hear that story all the time, that people stop having friends because they chose a different candidate. It's politics. Who cares? I mean, the politicians don't even have control over us. Only we have control over our minds and thought, yeah, they hinder our money, and yeah, they promote different things we might not believe in. But ultimately, they're outside of us. They can't control us. You can be put in prison and yes, they can control what you eat, where you go, but they never control your heart and mind. They just don't. So, but yeah, so they choose to love people only that align with their values. And even if you're not a criminal or you've done nothing wrong, you didn't align with their values, so they're gone. And maybe I will someday, because it'd be fun to see who would just give me the finger and move on. I
yeah,
don't know. So
yeah. I'll post political things, and in my personal profile, my personal accounts, I will post political things occasionally. But I tend to be pretty moderate, even though it's hard to be seen as a moderate by people who are extreme, because they only see extremes.
black and white.
If you're a moderate and you're viewed by somebody who's more on the extreme ends, they're going to see you as the opposite. They're going to see you on the extreme end of away from them, apart from them. They don't see the nuance, and that's what I like to discuss, is like the nuance of things. Like, hey, and you mentioned being able to see people for people, and that's something I feel like is really lacking. Like, people who don't like Kamala Harris don't see her humanity. People who don't like Donald Trump don't see his humanity. And it's like, these are human beings still. Like, you don't have to agree with their ideas. You can be against their ideas. But if you can't see that there's a human behind those ideas, that's a you problem, not a problem of that person. But
Right. I
it,
remember when
yeah,
Trump was shot, and the things on X, and it was like, wow, man is a father. He's a human being. And they are just, why didn't he die? I want him to die. And I thought, how could you not think? I could see his daughter crying for
yeah,
him. If
yeah,
his wife, his children. And it's like, it was even the shooter, when they showed the picture of the shooter that shot him dead, I thought my heart went out to his mother. It's like, oh my God, he's a human being. He is somebody's child that was just killed. And I didn't think about the reason why he was killed, but I felt the mother grieving. She's seeing her son dead on national TV. What a horror.
yeah,
How can a mother get through that? And I think we forget that. I mean, it's a good point. And I cut you
yeah.
off, and I'm
No,
sorry.
no, you're good.
Uh,
I had a
no, I'm not, because we shouldn't cut each other off.
I have an acquaintance who I saw posting on his Instagram story. It's a couple weeks ago, and his story was, basically every day I wake up to check the news to see, is he dead yet? And I'm assuming he was talking about Trump, because that's what
Trump,
everyone
yeah,
was
of course.
talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking, man, how does somebody have that mindset and be like, I'm the good guy because I don't like this person so much that I want them dead? And it's like, man, it's bizarre to me.
We could not like a politics of a person's politics or even their words at times, but I believe we have a responsibility to to love. And I'm not talking. I hate when I say this because love is so thrown out there, but we have a responsibility to care about each other
Yeah,
as a human being on
yeah,
that very basic level, and not and do no harm. Buddhists always say, "Do no harm to each other."
yeah,
Or wish no harm to each other.
yeah,
And it's the same when you wish harm, you're doing harm.
yeah.
It's no different.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we can be very oblivious to our own underlying the flaws in the way that we're looking at things. It's like it's really easy to see the flaws, and this isn't politics, this is just human nature. It's really easy to see the flaws of everyone else that we have ourselves and seem unable to recognize. Like that's just it's yeah, it's really hard because you have to be very aware, you have to be introspective and objective. You basically have to kind of view yourself externally almost to really see where you're going wrong sometimes. But
And there's non-duality because we're aware of our thoughts and our actions, and
yeah,
there's non-duality. But there are thoughts, our actions, and we're watching. We're aware, and that's where we can influence the divineness that influences our thoughts and our actions to good, to do well.
I'm curious about your painting. Have you always been a painter? Where did that start? And
Okay.
yeah, I really want to know about your painting because you
Okay.
make
So
beautiful art, by
it's
the way.
Thank you. It started early. So my mom, who was a really great artist, we got paint by numbers. I didn't get dolls because she had 9 kids, and she said two things to me in my life that she says it's not about just having babies, and never rely on man to support yourself or your children. So, but she was very creative. So art was it. Art and music was my life. We'd get out of the bathtub. She turned on Chubby Checkers, Let's Do the Twist, and she'd make us dry with the towel as we're doing the twist. So she was very creative
Yeah.
until she wasn't creative. Well, she wasn't even her anymore with mental illness.
Mm.
But it's so we did that. So my brother is a famous was a famous artist. He just passed away in Hawaii. He went by the name of Robert Thomas. It's if you ever want to look him up, his art is fantastic. He's in Kona, and now his children are still selling his art. But he would teach, and so we all spent time drawing. We had a place where we looked into the kitchen, and that was a place we were supposed to be in the corner when we were bad. Well, if there was a pen or a pencil, guess what? I was drawing on the walls. So I drew to concentrate because my mind, I see shiny things and I get distracted very easy. So I learned if I doodled in school, I would actually learn. I would actually listen because I engaged my mind is in the movement of the hands. And a lot of kids, even my granddaughter, I give her clay, which because she has a hard time staying focused on the conversation. So I'll give her clay, and she's so good with it. I could show you all the stuff behind me on her artwork, but she would engage because she was moving her hands. The tactile experience of the clay helped her concentrate. And I thought, well, if school would just give kids something to do with their hands, they would learn better. So mine was, we used to have things called peachies where we kept all papers in, and it was covered with doodles. So art was my passion. My first drawing that I did in charcoal was of one of the Beatles, George Harrison. And it was so good. I hung up. I have a picture someplace on an old Polaroid, but it was perfect. And I went to our art class. The art teacher had all of us. I was number 5. He taught us all art in high school. And I had to tell him, my brother, who was really good, the one that passed, who drowned at 21, that he had passed. And, he goes, oh, I'm going to say Lady Kitchen because it's out there. My last name used to be Kitchen. And he goes, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe it." So I did portraits, and he had us study a face. Like if I was to study you and I'll look at my paper and sketch out you, and he came over and he said, "Yours is perfect. You captured her." And it was like, oh, okay. So I kept drawing portraits. I've got paintings all over my house, my oils, but then I started working. So I had to put it aside. But I'm in a corporate meeting and I'm looking with this book and I'm looking here and it looks like, oh, she's really listening. And you'll see all sorts of trees and eyes and everything on this page. It had nothing, it had no words because that's what I do to do it. So that's where I had the inclination. It came naturally. And I found out my mother's grandfather was an artist here in Kansas City. And he used to paint the old wagons that would go west back in the turn of the century. But he also did art. So it came by me through DNA. And all of us are artistic in my family in different ways. So
interesting.
We just did it. Yeah, it's just in me.
What inspires you? Like when you actually sit down, is it mostly acrylic paintings that you do?
Yeah, I do oils, and I've been back to acrylics. One, it's cheaper, and two, I like doing the palette knife. So I like the palette knife technique because when you touch the painting, you have textures. So I love that so I've been doing that. But acrylics, I do oils, but the drying time. So I do water-based oils because of the turpentine, the smells. I do have COPD from being, smoked up until I was, I don't know, I smoked like 30 years of my life. I haven't smoked in over 20 some years, but it did the damage. Yeah. So those type of things I kind of avoid, but I love oil paintings. I think you get such rich colors. My favorite way to draw is with charcoal. I'm not good at watercolor yet, but I think I'm going to learn to do some watercolor too. I like mixed media. So, my brother used to do his paintings, start with a base of acrylic, and then he'd finish in oils. And his ocean scenes, his Hawaiian art is just comes to life with that technique. So yeah, it's just I'm doing landscapes, but I want to go back to doing portraits. And so I'm going to be doing some fun things that I'm not going to put on my website to sell. I'm just going to do different. I love old craggy faces with lots of lines and like that, because I think that is so fun. Because when I look at somebody, I look at your jawline. There you are. So I'm looking at the shape of your face already and how you're doing. But then I have to catch the essence of you, and I have to catch the essence of you in your eyes. And a lot of people who do portraits don't catch the eyes, because that's your soul. That's your whole being is in your eyes. So that's the window to you. And so it's really important to capture that when you're drawing. So I do like that, but I love what God created in the universe and then here on earth. So I'm in the Kansas City area, and right now I'm looking outside. It is gray. The 3 oaks in my front yard are brown and dead. And because I live most of my life in the Pacific Northwest. It's green. It's beautiful. It has water. Yeah. But here it's hard. So what I've been doing is I've been painting the Southwest, where my youngest now lives in the Arizona. So I love the colors of the Southwest because they're so vibrant. And I've been doing a lot of prairie pictures and what I use is I go to Midjourney and say, I want an abandoned church in the prairie of, Kansas. And it'll give me a visual reference photo, so I'm not stealing anybody's work. And then I will take that basic and I will create art from there. And I make Kansas more colorful than it is in the winter. Yeah. It's really ugly here. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all the Kansas people.
So you use Midjourney to have a starter image to base it off of?
Yeah, a reference photo. Yes.
Do you always have a reference photo?
No, not always. So sometimes I'll just do it from imagination.
Okay.
But I did these dancers. I think it was on my profile. And I had no reference photo. I just said, I'm going to have women dancing to a sunrise or a sunset in different landscapes, and that was my idea. So I did different colors. I did three of them. One was on a beach, one was in a prairie, and one was in the desert.
Hmm.
And it's just like, okay, yeah, because we celebrate life through our movement, through dance. And I thought that was fun to do on it. But yeah, no, I can just draw, but most artists look at something and interpret it and draw it out and sketch it out. So going out there outside and just seeing something, sketching it and bringing it back and then create it. So we all have to start somewhere.
Yeah.
If I was blind, how could I draw? I
Yeah.
have to look at something, but yeah.
When you don't have a reference image and you have an idea in your mind, do you have an end image in mind, or do you have just an idea and the end image is kind of not a surprise, but almost like it's unknown until you get there?
Yeah, it's unknown. It evolves.
Okay. That's really
I
cool.
will have an idea, and it's the ending is, even when I write it, the ending is never known to me till I get there.
Yeah.
So, and it will change 100 times. Like I've had paintings where I have whited it out and started it again. It's just like it didn't evolve. It's an emotion. It's a feeling. It's
Yeah.
a meaning behind it. So abandoned buildings to me has a lot of meaning. It's history. It's the hopes and dreams of those who are no longer with us. And if I capture a moment in time of their history, the old churches that I'll do is like they were built by pioneers that used brick, mortar, and hand tools to build these buildings that have stood the time, weather, the harshness of a winter here in the Midwest, and it's like it's dedicated to them, and they left their mark in the world because I think we all leave our mark in a way. And
Yeah. Do you have to be in a certain mood or anything to create? Like, could you at any point just walk over to a canvas and start painting, or do you have to feel a certain inspiration or be in a certain mood?
well, I can always do it because it's this year is about developing different techniques, and so I can always do. But yeah, I definitely, if I'm in a bad mood, I'm not going to go. I'll probably jump on the treadmill and walk and get out of the mood. So, but if there's time where I'm just not inspired, I don't want to pick a brush up. Or I want to, like when I do gardening in the summer, or it's like, oh, this is my canvas. My yard is my canvas. So I'm painting outside by planting and growing. So it's always the creative, but sometimes, yeah, it's difficult. I mean, sometimes you ever say a post and you know you should post, but you just, it's not there. It's not there. And then I don't, because it's like nothing has, it's a blank canvas, even writing is just blank canvas. So yeah, but I don't have to manufacture it. It just comes and goes. I'll go play a game for a while and then, or I'll read something and it'll inspire me to paint. It's just there's always a muse around me that will inspire me to pick up that paintbrush.
Yeah, I love it. With writing, I would love to hear what you think of the similarities between writing and painting, or are there?
Well, they are. I'm just better at a paintbrush with color and drawing a line than I am forming a sentence that makes sense to people. Because Nick and I had this discussion that what I say a lot of times just goes over people's heads. I know what it means. Nick gets it, but it's, my quirkiness is not for everybody because I don't think normal. I don't, I see, I want to leave when I write. I want you to think about it. I don't want to give you the answer. So if I write something, I want you to think, go, huh, okay. And you might come up with a different answer than I intended. But that's why I don't like endings on when I'm writing, is because what are your thoughts? But I never get feedback, which is too bad because I would love to know what people think. They don't even argue with me. I think they just think this is a crazy old lady and I'm not going to argue.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a bummer sometimes when you write something where you're like, oh, I'd really want to hear what other people have to say, and it's like, maybe they'll like it and stuff like that, but it's like No, I want to hear what you have to say. Yeah,
What you think about it,
yeah,
about the words. But I have a hard time forming words talking, let alone a sentence, a complete sentence. And all those things that, putting a comma here, a period there, it was always beyond me. And I'm learning. I thank God for Grammarly. Not a good speller, and I'm not good on punctuation. So yeah, it's a learning process for me. Just to do the pauses, because with a painting, everything is about where the sun is, shadows and light. And where are the shadows? Where's the light? Where's the darkness? What's hidden? And I can't produce that in a sentence. I can do that in a painting where I bring out what you want to see with color, and then the shadow is behind. So the definition come out in a painting. But words are flat to me, so I'm learning. I want to write like Nick, because his words take me on an emotional roller coaster. Every time his posts, I'm there. I'm with him. I am seeing everything he wrote, and I am feeling everything he wrote. I mean, he is so talented.
yeah, he is.
There's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you, because you use AI and you create your own art. So have you ever uploaded your own art to AI to like Midjourney to see what it would create based on your art?
No, I have not. I've done the opposite. I just type in my ideas, and it generally gives me a reference photo.
Yeah,
But no, I've never taken that, put my art, and seen how it interpreted. Because you put a picture on Midjourney, and it'll describe that picture to you.
yeah, yeah.
And oh, that's a good idea. I'll have to try that. That's interesting.
I
I have not. I use Midjourney a lot for my posts.
yeah,
When I want to really have more impact than my written word. I think that for me, visuals help my words, because I'll write a post based on what I did in Midjourney and then elaborate on it. So, but I don't ever claim it as my artwork, because that's, it's not. It's just me. It's Midjourney.
yeah.
I'm sure people can tell. Interesting.
I'll I'll create a lot of art in Midjourney, and one of the things I like to do is I'll take an image that I really like, I'll throw it into ChatGPT, and then have ChatGPT describe the image, and then feed that prompt
Oh,
back into Midjourney to see like to just
oh,
kind of keep
okay. That's
iterating.
even easier.
Yeah,
I'm going to steal that.
yeah,
Because, yeah, I could do that. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
It's fun. I
So,
enjoy
what do
it.
you think of grok? Do you play much with grok?
Yeah, I like rock. I think it has. I think they're trying to make it like non-ideological, which I like. I think that's a good thing, but I don't think that ideology plays into that much with AI anyway. Like art, it's like yeah, if you're trying to make a political piece of art, then maybe it's going to tie into that. But in general, like if you're just trying to make a beautiful scene, ideology doesn't really creep in there. Um, I think Grok is useful and it's getting better and it can make good art. Uh, I use Grok and ChatGPT the most for just discussing things. I like, one of the things I've liked recently is to pull some insights, like ask if you use ChatGPT a lot or Grok, they have a lot of information on you,
Mm-hmm.
which can be scary, but it can also be really insightful. So, like, you can ask, based on what you know about me out of all of our conversations, what's something you've noticed about me that you don't think I've likely picked up on throughout my life? And you can gain these
Oh, that's a good
insights
question. Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
ask, what do you think my strengths are? What do you think my weaknesses are? Which, yeah, I've asked it that, and it's funny because
Wow.
my
That's,
my weakness is my strength. My strength is my weakness, which is kind of interesting. They play off of each other. Like my weakness, according to ChatGPT, my strength is my ability to connect seemingly unrelated things in unique ways, and I have a really really wide range of interests. But that really wide range of interests is also like a weakness because it's like you're interested in so much. Sometimes it can be hard for you to like really stay committed to one thing because you're kind of on to the next thing. So
but why should we stay committed to? to one thing, because I've always had multiple interests. I mean, I have so many hobbies that it might be crocheting for a moment, or knitting, or it might be gaming, or it might be painting, or it might be gardening. Why should I limit one interest? Why can't I explore the entire universe in interests? I mean, yeah, it's not good for getting a job. And, I taught customer service for 30 years and I got paid to do it, but it wasn't a great interest of mine except for the psychological part of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think.
But why is that wrong? I'm really curious. Why do you think it's wrong that you have so many interests?
I don't think it's wrong. I think if I want to excel at certain things, I don't think I need to drop anything. Like, it's not like I feel like, oh, I need to like stop being interested in all these things. I think it's that I need to maintain a certain prioritization of certain things. Of like, that's what the podcast is for me. The podcast is like, I haven't been posting as much on X. I haven't been doing my spaces and stuff like that. But I have like my baseline is like, okay, the podcast is like priority number one. Like, I'm not going to stop doing that. So I can strip everything down and stop doing everything. And the podcast is going to still maintain its footing. I'm going to keep at it. I want to make music, although I've kind of like drifted away over the last few years. Now I'm getting in a space where I'm like, okay, I want to do music again. So it's like, I can have a million interests, but I do need to prioritize a few to be like, okay, if I want to make music, I have to have it as somewhat of a priority so that I'm creating music. And then with like, I want to make AI art. I want to do all these different things, but it's like, how much time do I want to dedicate to that? Do I want to put too much and then let my priorities kind of be rearranged? I don't think it's a weakness to have many interests. I think it's a strength. Like, I'm definitely a generalist and I wouldn't have it any other way, but I need to make sure that I'm putting in the time for the things that really matter to me, so.
Oh, I agree. Because, right now art's my focus, but, I have a drone. I have a metal detector.
Yeah.
I love to garden.
Yeah.
So those things are fillers when I need to walk away from my art.
Yeah.
Because primarily right now, I didn't have time in my 30-year career and before that, raising children to paint.
Yeah.
Because paint takes time. So now I have a room. I have an art studio. I have places where I can actually do it and not put it away. So it's like I'm going to focus on that while I'm here in Kansas. And just the lack of color in Kansas is my motivation for painting, to bring color into a colorless world.
Yeah.
So even though morally I'm gray, I'm not black or white, but I'm gray, but I like to bring color into everything. So yeah, I like having varied interest.
Yeah.
When I retired, the first thing I bought was my metal detector and my drone.
Yeah.
And it was like, yes, I'm going to have time to actually go metal detecting and fly my drone. So I like the variety. And maybe it's like getting a tattoo. I could never do it because I can't commit to something for that long.
Yeah. Yeah, I can resonate with that. You mentioned metal detectors. I was just thinking about this a few weeks ago. I've always wanted a metal detector. Like, I just want to be like exploring and finding something that's underneath the ground that I had no idea that it's there. And
I found silver. We bought this house. It was. I want to say it was born in 1952. It was made in 52. Yeah. But where their laundry line was, I found so much old silver coins. I mean, it was just so fun. And I just find these tools buried in the backyard. It was just a ball to dig up this history of this home. And it was like, oh, okay. This person did that. Because when I bought this house, I did genealogy trees on each person who owned this house. So I did the research because I do genealogy. There's another interest. Yeah. And so I did their family trees, all of their family trees of who owned the land as far back into the 1800s when it was just land. Yeah. And so I did this property because I wanted to know the history. I don't know why. I was just curious. Yeah. Again, curiosity. Yeah. So far it hasn't killed me. I haven't got too curious yet.
I love curiosity. But
Yeah.
well, Pat, it's been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
I do love to ask people about books. You mentioned one earlier, but are there any books that you've read throughout your life that have really resonated with you?
I'm trying to think. So many. I read 3 books a week. The titles always escape me. Now, let me think. I don't think. Well, yeah. The one that's put me on my recent journey that was a start was 10% Happier by Dan Harris.
Hmm.
A skeptic's look at meditation.
Yeah.
And it brought me to the point where I'm today. I way past Dan now. He's still a skeptic and doesn't really believe there's a God. But you know what? It was an eye opening book because it brought Buddhism to me. So that one recently. I wish I could know the one about awareness, but if you give me just 1 minute, let me look at my Kindle and I'll tell you what it was. Michael Singer, The Surrender Experiment.
Hmm. Interesting.
The Michael Singer. That is it. That just changed everything
Yeah.
for me. It was like, okay, surrender.
Yeah.
Just accept what the universe brings.
Love it. Awesome. Well, Pat, before we wrap up, I want to hand it over to you to tell listeners where they can find your art, where they can find you on X, and anything else you want to share. And yeah, anything else you want to share.
Okay, you can find my art on pforbesart.com. I have prints and original art for sale there. You can find me on X at Pat Forbes. I just changed it. It's at the Power Within You. Power within underscore you. No, power underscore within you, capital U. And anything else on social media, I'm on Instagram under Pat Forbes. You can find me on Facebook under Pat Forbes. I couldn't get too much of my art or too much of me, but you could see all the masks I wear on those sites.
Awesome. Love it. Well, Pat, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun. It was painless.
Yeah.
I appreciate you didn't make me suffer.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.